I got a new job, which I love, but it pays half of what I've been paid to do, and there are no benefits. So this raises an existential question. Do I do what I love, or do I do what makes money? And there's nothing easy in life. And this is a very black and white question, so there's so many nuances. But I just want to take you through my journey of what I have done with my decision making in the last 15 years or so of my life. So when I was in college, discipline in doing something difficult that takes many years, that is not instant. I got my bachelor's degree and my graduate degree by the age of 22 with a 4-year full ride scholarship. So I came out of college just really loaded with credentials and credits, and I was already working throughout college. I was working in the restaurant industry for about 5 years from high school into college. And even though that one is tip only, I was getting paid $2.17 an hour, which was all gone by the time taxes took everything out. I really learned people skills. I really learned how to work under a stressful environment. I learned how to multitask. I learned how to communicate with people and a lot of social skills. It was so helpful for me because I started when I was 15 and I was interacting with families and couples and people celebrating and Europeans and just all kinds of people. And so that was a really good experience for me because I didn't get that kind of skill set when I was in college and when I was in high school. Like in academics, there are topics that was really challenging my mind. I was getting history, I was learning analytical thinking skills, I was learning how to write. And so I had different skills that I was developing. And so I really encourage you to figure out what you love. And sometimes the best way of figuring out what you love is figuring out what you don't like. So when I was in high school and in college, I took all the classes I could get my hands on. And I was involved in all these clubs. So I was in the medical club, I was in this political activism club, I was in this film club, I was in the French club, I was in orchestra, I was studying a film and politics class in college, I was taking this law school class in college as well, I took modern dance, I put myself out there, and it might sound really busy, but it's just kind of my personality. And because I wanted to try something new, and I think for me a good way to even test if I like something is if it kind of stands the test of time. Well, when I look back on something, does it age well? And so I think about all my jobs that I had. I was working in office jobs in corporate marketing. And then I quit my job to go travel the world, to serve in missions, to make an impact. And then I joined Bible college to get more theological training while working part-time remote marketing contracting. And then I jumped into full-time ministry for the last 3.5 years. And now I'm in this other crossroads, which is how I started this video, that I got a job. And so for me, it sounds like a lot and it sounds aimless, but it was actually very, very helpful for me because I learned that I enjoy tactile experiences. And so I was finding that in my free time, in my leisure time, I'd be putting puzzles together. I'd be doing projects like putting a dollhouse together with my friend. I was working on house projects, working on the deck, painting chairs, painting coffee tables. I was making pottery with my friend. And so I was starting to notice that I really enjoyed tactile experiences, but the majority of my work in the office would be looking at a screen, sitting in meetings, running Excel sheets, sending emails, which I guess has some tactile, but it's very screen oriented. And so I noticed that I really find satisfaction with working with my hands. and which is a large reason of why I really enjoy violin, because it's very tactile. Like you use your body and you get immediate feedback, if that makes sense. Like I will move the bow and then sound will be produced. And so that's something that I realized. And other things that I realized too was there's this concern, right? About, but I'm worth more. Like my credentials, my experience, I desire my social circle. Like it's kind of like I need to get what I'm worth. And so I think when you start a job, like one of my friends is an entrepreneur, but is working at a fast food restaurant when it's not the season for the store, right? And so you can look at that person and be like, okay, this person has a 4-year business degree, but is not using it. Like a high school employee, a high schooler could get a job where he's at, in a way, right? But you also have to think of it's an option. So for me, and for you, if you have education, don't throw away your experiences, because they make a composite of who you are. And when I was doing the creative content team work, I was pulling stuff from when I was working in radio. I was a radio DJ for a few semesters in college. I took photography when I was in grad school. I had a semester where I took off work, and so I enrolled in a community college and took photography with soccer moms. But I've used that skill to be able to send photos, and I sent photos on my website, and that got me an interview with the city, if that makes sense. So you just never really know what tools and skill sets you picked up that will serve you. Yesterday I was at my job and they needed help with translating something because I had served refugees overseas who didn't speak English. I was in France, they spoke Arabic. I learned about Google Translate and how it worked, was very familiar with the interface. And so in this moment when they needed something translated fast, in about 30 seconds, we already found the solution and got the information. And so I think that when you have education, like for me, I have marketing experience. So I have the education that is always going to stay. And I have my experience from my prior history that's always going to stay. So if I want to go down that path, I already know I have a straight shot of that path. But if I want to try something new, I can use what I've used before and apply it in a different context, which is really adaptive intelligence and is really something that makes somebody fluid and flexible and entrepreneurial. And what you can do is learn what you like and don't like, but then apply it. So for me, I did full-time ministry for about 3 years, and it felt very fulfilling. There was a lot of significance. I really enjoyed the content of what I was doing. But I did know, looking at the bigger picture, that support raising was something that I did not love to do, but was a required work in the area that I was in. And so after recognizing that, and after learning the skill set of doing that, I decided to look for this, this is why I'm in this pathway right now. But it's a good skill, and it might come up in the future. And so I just don't want anyone to feel discouraged about, like, I don't want to waste this thing that I pursued, or like this job is so random. It's all going to connect into a storyline. We just don't know the end of the story yet, but it's not a chapter to throw out. And there might be parts edited out, like there might be parts that are highlighted, but it's not a waste. So that's an encouragement. Another thing that I want to talk about is I was talking with a friend who was helping me process because of my current job. And she asked me, what's the worst that could happen? And I'll think about it more and maybe I'll add on to this. But I really couldn't think of something, because the things that I was desiring, the benefits or the healthcare, I could do that and find my own options. But it didn't mean that I was losing anything. And maybe I would be making less money. So maybe it's lost opportunity. But the flip side is I'm gaining new experience in a new field that's very tactile, it's very hands-on. And I'll also learn if I like it or not, because I already know what marketing is. So I've already learned in general. Of course, there's so many things to learn. You'll never stop learning, but I got the general big picture, broad strokes of what the industry entails. And so that way in the future, when I make a decision, like do this fork that I'm on, maybe it's just for a small period of time. When I went on this fork to go serve the Lord in missions, I wasn't sure if it was just going to be for 11 months and then I was going to come right back to marketing. And actually, I did come back and do marketing on the side, but I learned in that experience, having my own company, having flexibility, working remote. I was completely remote. I was making good money. It was super flexible, low stress. But I learned that I didn't love that. I learned that I really love working with people. I like being able to dive deep and give my full-time energy to do something very well. And even though I had a lot of flexibility, I was able to work for a month in Texas when I visited my family. I was able to go overseas in Latin America for a month and continue working. I had so much flexibility, but it came at a cost, because even though I was flexible, I would have to find a quiet room to take my phone calls. I would have to get good internet connection. One time I was working in Kentucky and the call kept dropping. So there's pros and cons to every profession. And one thing for you to do as you're trying to decide, do I do what I love or do I do what makes money? Try to see where the opportunity is and just evaluate the pros and cons and decide what is important to you in this moment. I have a friend who is really needing a job because of the maternity leave benefits. That's not a concern of mine. And so that, to me, that was not a big issue up front. Another thing to consider, and I'll wrap this video up because it's getting long. I was working 48 hours a week and I loved every moment of it. It was very significant. And so I really enjoyed giving my full energy into what I was doing. So, but right now I'm in this season where I had about 3 weeks of a lot of downtime. And in that downtime, there was so much that happened, which you can see in my previous videos. I went on a cruise, I went snorkeling, I was learning and am learning the skill of creating YouTube videos, the process that it takes, creating shots, editing, sound design, graphics. You know, I'm like learning. I'm reading books, I'm doing a challenge at the library, I joined an orchestra. And so what I was noticing is I really enjoyed the extra time because it helped me just like feel more alive and feel more myself instead of kind of fitting into somebody else's mold, which is what was happening when I was involved in this organization, because I just didn't really have time. I didn't have as much time to just kind of sit with my thoughts and sit with my feelings and really wrestle through it. So I hope this is helpful. So anyways, to summarize, my quality of life right now, having flexibility, low stress, learning something new, doing something with my hands, in music, in violin world, is very appealing to me right now. I have not had a corporate marketing job in years, and I have not missed it. And I have not missed the salary that it provides, because currently at this exact moment, all my needs are met and I feel very content where I am. And that might not be the case for you. Like, I don't have children that I'm gonna be worrying about their college fund. There's just some things that other people will be concerned about. But for me, also being at home for about 3 weeks, kind of unsure where to go, the thought of working at home is not the most exciting part. But when I was talking to a few friends, that was a very appealing part when I had another job opportunity come up. So I just want to, just share some of these little thoughts, and I hope it'll help you process, because again, a lot of content out there is really focused on how you can do what you love and like monetize it, or how you can do what you love, but it's like too idealized or something. And so for me, I'm just more trying to explain the decision-making process, like things to consider, like what's important to you and what are some things that align with this opportunity, and like try to assess the opportunity, the environment, the culture, the location, and then the actual work. Because another thing that I was noticing is I like to, in my other jobs, like I really enjoyed the benefits that I provided. My California job, we did hikes, we had wine tastings, we went to conferences and traveled, and it was a very good team, had Christmas parties and events and networking and happy hours, and it was really the best kind of job you could get in marketing. But then I recognized that I loved everything that surrounded the job itself, but the job itself was just kind of like something I was getting through, that I was good at, and I am good at, and it's still very marketable. So what I've noticed right now with this current job, 1 week in, is I really enjoy the actual work that it entails. And there aren't as many benefits around it. There are some, which maybe I'll talk about later, but that could be another thing to think about when you're making your decision. Or even, you don't have to make a decision. You can just think through some options or opportunities, or even reflect back about what you have done and like the path that you've taken and the things that you've learned. Because sometimes self-reflection can help you make a decision in the future, and you don't always have to decide right now. And that's another thing I'm telling myself. I'm 1 week in. I don't have to make a decision that's going to be like, this is the next 4 years of my life. Like, I can take the pressure off, and you can too.